Hello everyone, welcome back to the Echelons Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by Thomas, Dips and Stars on Twitter. Thomas, how are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to comment on INEOS. That's one of the biggest teams out there.
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about, isn't there?
Yeah, there
First
are a
of
lot of
all,
changes also.
yeah, looking at the transfers, I'm just gonna dive right in. This may be the team that has benefited the most from this transfer season. They've just gotten 5 riders, but each and every one of them is going to have a big role, and each and every one of them is a proven and capable winner. You have Adam Yates, Richie Port, Daniel Martinez, Lawrence Duplus, and Tom Pidcock. But we have to start somewhere. I think that we're going to go through all of these names, but my first question is going to be Egan Bernal. He had a bad season this year. He had some back problems, some injuries. Is he going to be back to his best in 2021?
He's still only 23, so it's still a youngster who was able to make some progress compared to the victory of 2 years ago. So let's hope for the excitement of the race that he's back to his top form, that he can challenge with Roglic and Pogacar.
He's going to be at the Tour. He's going to target the Tour, despite the route that features a whole lot of time trialing kilometers. Might that have been his best decision? Will the Tour just be, with the rise of brilliant time trialists, really, like Roglic, for example, like Pogacar, we've seen as well in doing super well at the Tour. I think that it's going to be a little hard for him to contest the Tour in the best conditions. I think that you would do better at the Giro. What do you think about that?
I think the Tour is still the biggest race out there. So, and if he thinks he can be the best rider in a GT, that he can win the biggest GT out there, he should do the Tour. That's also what Roglic will do. That's what Pogacar will do.
Yeah,
That's
they'll
just a
all be
big
eyeing it.
Yeah.
What about Richard Carapaz? I don't think that we've seen yet where he's targeting exactly, but I would expect that it would be the Giro, the same as he was supposed to do this year, mainly. How do you see him at the moment? Where do you put Carapaz in the league of the big Grand Tour riders?
Well, in the Vuelta, he was just behind Roglic. He actually rode the Vuelta faster than Roglic. So he's really with the best up there for me. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I kind of think the same. The same way that, since I've seen him win the Giro in 2019, a lot of people at the time, and still now, would say that it was somewhat a fluke because Roglic and Nibali were marking themselves. I really disagreed that the whole time. I always seen the quality that was there within him. I think it was in the stage to Lago Cerro, and then in the next stage in Colle San Carlo to Courmayeur, that those were two brutal performances of a pure climber, and his talent was just evident in there. Last year, I expected him to be probably the man to beat at the Giro before his calendar got changed. But as you said, he was almost there, about to win the Vuelta. He was just seconds away from it. And yeah, if he decides to go for the Giro, I know that there aren't too many names announced that are going there yet, but for example, Nibali, yesterday was announced that he's going to be there, full form with Ciccone and Mollema. There's Emmanuel Buchmann, there's Evenepoel, surely some more names that I'm forgetting now. But at this level, I think that Carapaz may still go to the Giro as the man to beat. That is, of course, depending on who goes with him. And from there on, there's another important question, I would say, which is Tao Geoghegan-Hart and Geraint Thomas. Where are they at the team at this moment? With so many terrific climbers coming in, with so many terrific climbers that were already in the team, like Bernal and Carapaz, are Hart and especially Thomas still going to have the freedom to lead the team as they wished?
I think that's the most important question of the team discussion, because they got stronger, but not with leaders. I mean, they have Port. He's very good. He was podium in the Tour, but he's not going to win the Tour. They have the Plus, which is very good guy, but it's more like Kwiatkowski, you know.
Yes, I would say so.
So I think that's also an important factor to consider for Carapaz, for Bernal, when they will be the leader, because these guys are leaders of the team. The question will be if the team will be strong enough. I think what we saw last year with INEOS was in the Tour de France, the team was now very strong, but Bernal not very strong. But also the rest of the team was definitely now at the same level like Jumbo.
Yes,
and
definitely.
also in the Vuelta, we have seen a very strong Carapaz. But I think the strongest helper was like Dylan van Baarle, which was not expected. We expected more from some other guys like Sosa. And then in the Giro, they have a huge team, and then they had some bad luck with the leader, with Thomas. But otherwise, they have a huge team because they actually won the Giro with the helpers, and they won a lot of stages. So for me, that will be the most interesting thing to see, the composition of the teams for the GTs actually. If they decide to go for a Carapaz, to have a lot of support for him in the Giro, if they have like the same squad like they rode the Giro last year, that will be huge. And then Carapaz is the favorite for me. So this is the main question, if these second tier riders, let's say, if they will fully support the leaders, like Martinez, the Plus.
Yeah,
it's Port.
It's hard to have so many pieces to fit in the puzzle, and I think that at some points it isn't really going to go well. My opinion is that Port, the Plus, and Sivakov, and okay, I'm going to mention Sousa as well, but I don't put Sousa in the same league at this moment, and Martinez probably. They are all going to play supportive roles in the Grand Tours. I think that is more than decided because there really isn't space for them to lead, I would say, except if, of course, there are crashes, like it was the case of Thomas at the Giro. But then it becomes really hard to see how it's going to turn out. For example, like Aaron Thomas. You know, I think of him and I really don't know what he's going to do. I think that the Tour is definitely the race that's going to fit him the most. He's probably going to target it, but he's going to have Bernal in there. He's probably going to have the likes of some of the names we just talked about. There's the possibility of Adam Yates being there as well, which is a name we haven't even gotten to. There are so many pieces to the puzzle that I wouldn't say it's them turning on each other, but I think that a lot of the riders are going to get to the end of the season unhappy with the freedom they've gotten, because there really isn't space for much. And, you know, even when you look at the 1 week stage races, I wouldn't say that all of these riders are going to have their chance to lead. And they definitely have the quality to do so. So I'm gonna stick with my idea of Daniel Martinez staying as a domestique role. But Adam Yates, what do you think? I think, first of all, sorry, I think that for the Grand Tours, he's definitely more of a stage hunter. But for the 1 week stage races, he's one of the best out there, without a doubt. And now joining INEOS, I would expect perhaps even a higher level from him. What do you expect to see from Yates this year?
Yeah, I think he will have to be domestic. It's the same for Port. I think these two guys will have to be domestic for the younger leaders out there. But maybe if the leader is having a bad day and they can hang on to the favorites in a GT, maybe they can still produce some great results. I think they will be like the last domestic for another leader. So Adam Yates, I don't think he will be the leader for any ride.
I have to agree there. He's a tremendous rider, though. I love seeing him racing. At the Grand Tours, I don't think he's going to have the freedom he's accustomed to. But for example, in the Ardennes, perhaps he could double up with Kwiatkowski. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. He's actually very sharp. He's more of a climber, of course, but really good for the short climbs. Not saying Amstel, of course. I think that's more for the pure classics riders. But a race like Liège, as we've seen this year with Pogacar and Roglic, some of the climbers can definitely fit in there.
Yeah, it's possible that he will be like the leader for Liège. That's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a very strong team for Liège also. If they go with the Plus, who also said he want to do the Ardennes,
Yes,
and he want to have a leading role, and then Kwiatkowski and maybe Pidcock. That's a huge team, huh? So they have the numbers to win this race.
It is, yes. And my next question is something that sort of flows in from there, which is, it's a bit of an abstract question, of course, but who do you see? I don't believe that all of these riders are going to stay in the team at the end of the season. Who would you say would be the most likely to leave at the end of the year of these big climbers?
Oh, that's a good question. I think maybe Sivakov, if he want to be the leader, and he's not at the top level maybe this year. Maybe it's all assumptions that I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not really top level and he want to be a future GT leader, maybe he will have to switch teams.
You just took the words out of my mouth. That is the exact same answer that I had. Sivakov, he's still young, but I think that this year he could have already had the chance, for example, to lead the Grand Tour. And it just went completely wrong from him. He went to the Tour. Bernal had this injury. Sivakov crashed so many times. He was never near his best. It all just went wrong. And this season, that something could eventually shine for him. Just a whole lot of new climbers coming to the team. I think that he's gonna be suffocated from all this. He's not gonna have any space whatsoever. I could still give him the excuse that he's still young and has time to evolve, but after the way we've seen him ride at the Giro 2 years ago, I think that he's gonna want much more than beyond domestic duties for the whole season.
Yeah, I think so too. So this is the name Sivakov, also Sosa, because Sosa has a quite disappointing year last year. Mm-hmm. In the big races, he was never at a good level. I think these guys, if they don't have some great results in 2021, they will want to leave themselves.
For sure. And Sosa, I didn't think of him as much because he's not still, he's not a proven Grand Tour rider, and he's not a proven stage racer, I would say. He's a brilliant climber, but he still has a lot to evolve. In Sivakov's case, the point is really that he seems completely established already himself as a rider, but not having the space.
Yeah, exactly. The case with Sosa is it's all or nothing for me. If you see this last stage in Vuelta Burgos, he was so good. He got rid of Landa with the great legs. He got rid of Evenepoel, Almeida, Kemna, all these big names behind him, and then in the Tour in the Giro, I think he was riding.
In the Vuelta.
The Vuelta, sorry. Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah, no consistency.
Yeah, no consistency.
I was hoping for a whole lot better from him, but yeah, exactly. No, he wasn't there. He just didn't manage to perform. Of course, you could attribute it to other reasons, but yeah, it's a whole season. He won that stage in Burgos, but other than that, it was just a whole season down the drain, pretty much. Now, the last two names, obviously, it just starts to be hard to to even find gaps for these riders. But Rowan Dennis, what do you expect from him?
Oof, I'm not a big fan. He has a huge engine, so I think his teammate Filippo Ganna has proven himself to be better, like in time trials. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with the second point there. Of course, and no doubt, I think Ganna is superior at this point in the time trials, no doubt. The point from Dennis, for Ganna, I didn't even ask, First of all, because I think that he has no problem. He's completely established. He's won several time trials. He's even won road stages at the Giro. I think that he's just going to have no issue whatsoever in the team. Also, as a team that really supports Italian riders. From Dennis, I really see until the Giro, I was absolutely just wondering what was Dennis. I was wondering if Dennis was wondering. Dennis was just a loose piece in the team. I didn't know what he was doing in here. He's not going to take any wins in the time trials because Ghana is very superior. He rarely has his best form. But the thing is then that when he does have his best form, he proves such a valuable piece, like at the end of the Giro, where he played a very important role for Hart's overall win.
Yeah, he was huge in the Giro. That's true.
It's such a conundrum. He's such a risk for a team because, as you've seen in Bahrain, he barely performed except for the World Championships, where he wasn't racing for the team. And here, if it weren't for those final days at the Giro, it would have been more of the same. Just nothing to show from the season. A tremendous rider. He's definitely going to be a domestique for next season. But the same way as Pavel Sivakov, I would also say that Dennis is going to leave because there's no way that he's going to have the freedom to chase results that he would like to.
Yeah, it depends if he can be a good domestic in the Tour, together with guys like Kwiatkowski, and maybe they will want to keep him on board.
Mm-hmm.
The job he did in the Giro was huge indeed.
It's possible. It's it's a risk, but it's a risk that can go well. It's a risk that can go wrong, but it's really up to the team to decide if it's worthy or not.
Yeah.
So the final question, I have two final questions. The first one would be a surprise in the team this season. Who's gonna break through the most?
I would go for Dylan van Baarle.
Really?
He's already a bit older, and he mainly worked as domestic last year. But when you see, like in the Tour of Flanders, he was top 10. Also in a few breakaways in the Vuelta, he was quite strong. Maybe if he can improve on that, and he can have some chances in Flanders, maybe he could be capable of doing like a podium in Flanders or something.
That's yes. Say sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. That's a surprising answer actually. I really wasn't expecting you to go for Van Baarle. I've taken a little bit of a look at the team, and there's a whole lot of names that you just wouldn't be surprised if they won big races. I'm going with Tom Pidcock for the simple reason that it's his first year as an elite, and we still don't really know what he's capable of doing in it. But seeing how well he's ridden at the under 23 rankings, seeing how well he's actually been riding the cyclocross season, even taking wins away from Van der Poel and almost Van Aert. Not exactly sure how it went there, although I've seen the races. It's not in memory right now. He's such a huge talent. I think that he hasn't been talked as much as some of the others, like for example Evenepoel, because he opted not to jump onto elite ranks directly. But he is such a tremendous rider. He's a very strong climber, as you've seen in the under 23 Giro. He's won 3 stages, I think, in the overall, like all of the mountain stages, he obliterated them. He is a rider that, despite being like he's a little rider, really, really small, the size of Esteban Chavez, but he's won Paris-Roubaix, also in the younger ranks. And at the elite levels, I think that it was in the European Championships that he was close to winning. So you really have so many qualities and factors in there that Hickok is not going to have the pressure to perform because it's his first season as an elite, and also because he has a huge team he can work for. But I think that in some points, he's definitely going to go over some of his leaders. I would say probably in some of the early season stage races, and also perhaps in some cobbled classics, above Dylan van Barle, I would say even.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a huge talent. The expectations are also quite high in the cycling community for Pidcock, as he's already done some great results. And as you say, he will have to work in this bigger team for the moment, which is definitely an advantage at this age. He doesn't have to bear the leadership. Yeah, good pick. Yeah.
And now the opposite question. Name a rider that won't perform as expected this season.
I'm looking at the list. There's one obvious name, which is Gianni Moscon. The expectations are probably a bit lower also after last year. Let's see. Maybe I will have to pick Hart, because he was good in the Giro, but I'm afraid he won't be so consistent, and he will be considered a big name now. But he's still a second tier for me.
I have to agree with that. I really do. I don't agree with many people that say that this Giro was like a second tier Giro, because I've seen throughout some of the stages climbing times and power values that really show that it wasn't the case. The case was that Hart and Hindley were really in a really high level, alongside Kelderman and of course the other riders that were in contention. But I agree. I'm not going to pick Tao Hart, but I agree fully with what you said. I think that the expectations on him are going to be so high because he's the Giro defending champion. But in reality, even if he goes to the Giro, I wouldn't see him being the leader. Perhaps co-leader. That's fully normal, I would say, nowadays with Carapaz probably. But I'm not expecting him I'm not expecting him to lead much throughout the year. I'm really not. But if I were to make a pick, I would say Daniel Martinez, because, as a climber, naturally he's touted as a future Grand Tour contender for sure. Most of the climbers are. He took a big win at the Dauphiné, but at the same time, that win came also, it was a brilliant win, nothing to take from it, but it came from first of all, from Roglic abandoning, Bernal abandoning. Secondly, because tactically he was really, really good at the final stage, but in terms of the pure climbing ability, I don't think he's at the level of the riders that were surrounding him at the time. I think that his form was really high. In the Dauphiné, he finished right above Pogacar, and in no way in hell would at the Tour that be able to happen. I think that his form was really high, and the expectations put on him were also unreasonably high, as they will this season. I think he's probably going to be given the role of leader at some teams, in some races, I mean. But I don't expect to see much from him. I think he's going to be more of a domestique for the team, and like Sivakov, I don't see him leading throughout the season. Maybe one race or two, not one of the big ones, but yeah, I don't expect Martinez to do as well as he did this season, actually.
And I was thinking about Martinez. Is it maybe possible that he was brought in because he's also Colombian to help Bernal? Is that possible for the Tour de France, for example?
Yeah, that's a good point that I haven't thought of, actually. That's very possible.
I don't know if they get along well, but could be.
I would hope they do. All right. That is what we've got for today. I would like to thank Thomas once again for being on this video. The next video is going to be on Israel and Lotto Soudal. So again, Thomas, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a
welcome. I'll see you in the next video.
Yep. See you.